list of the endpoints that are available in the Workbrew API. So you can see kind of, here's an example request. Curl is a command line tool. If you don't have curl, you can install it with brew, just brew install curl. And then you can use some command line options to make a web request. Typically, you wouldn't use curl to build your functions. You might do it as like a bash script or something. But any programming language will also have an API client available to you where you can make these same kind of requests. And down the right side, you can see a bunch of different resources that are available to you and API calls that you can make. I'm going to walk through some of the most important API endpoints. So the first that we have here is the devices endpoint. We support Mac OS, Linux, and WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. And you can get a list of all of the devices that are in your workspace by making a GET request to this endpoint. And you can see on the right side kind of what the response looks like. So it gives you the name of the device, which is a friendly name. It gives you its identifier. It tells you what type of device, what operating system it is, where Homebrew is installed, what versions are installed, and a summary of the packages that are installed. So this is really useful for getting a lay of the land, figuring out what the device IDs are for the various devices, and using that in some automations. Up next is formula. Formula are source code based packages. So in Homebrew, we have two types of packages. We have formula and casks. A formula is a source code based package where the Homebrew project, somebody creates a package, and in that package, we reference the source code of the project, and then Homebrew compiles that source code into a binary and then installs it onto your device. With this API endpoint, you can get a list of all of the formula packages, the source code based packages, in your workspace, and it also includes information about which devices they're installed on. So you can get all this information. So you might say, for example, you want to look up which devices have which packages. You can do that with this API endpoint. Additionally, there's an API endpoint for casks. So it works just like the formula endpoint. However, this returns all of the binary-based packages. Binary-based packages might be things like Google Chrome, Visual Studio Code, Zoom, Slack, Microsoft Teams. Usually it's desktop applications. The differentiator here is that the upstream vendor of the software is the one who provides the binary. So Homebrew doesn't compile it for you. It's provided by the upstream vendor. Similarly, you can get the devices it's installed on and what versions are installed. Up next is vulnerabilities. So our vulnerabilities function is based off of detected known vulnerabilities. We keep a database of all the known vulnerabilities affecting all of the packages in Homebrew and which versions they impact. Whenever we detect that a particular package in your workspace has a vulnerability, we'll create a vulnerability in your account, which will be visible using this API endpoint. So you can go to the vulnerabilities page in your Workbrew console, or if you use this endpoint, you'll get a list of all the known vulnerabilities. It includes things like the CVE identifier, the score, what packages it impacts, what devices it impacts, and what version of Homebrew it's related to. With this, you can do a lot of interesting things. You can detect vulnerabilities. You could use this in an automation where, let's say once a day, you check the vulnerabilities and then you send a Slack message to anybody who has a vulnerability and you tell them, hey, it'd be really nice if you could upgrade this to the latest version. You could also use this for logging, check and see if there are known vulnerabilities and keep an audit history of when devices in your environment had vulnerabilities and things like that. And lastly, on the Workbrew API, I want to talk about brew commands. So a brew command is essentially a way to run anything that brew could do on a list of devices. So you can run it on one device, you could run it on a group of devices, or you could run it on all devices in your fleet. And this is really powerful because it allows you to take action within your account. I hear a lot from customers that say, we'd like to be able to automate the installation of some package when an event happens. So we do have default packages, which will allow you to automate the installation of packages at the time when a device joins a group or when a device joins your workspace. But maybe as a result of a user action, you might want to install a package. And so you could use the brew commands functionality to create a request that when a user takes an action in whatever tool, whether it's something like ServiceNow or Slack or in any other kind of situation, maybe it's Jamf self-service, you could fire off an API request to this brew commands endpoint and then essentially run any brew command on that device or a group of devices in an automated fashion. And so when you do that, what will happen is the command will be created and then a run will be created for the devices that you're targeting. And then those commands will be executed on the devices the next time they check in. And then the status will be reported in the runs. Now, I'm not going to go through every single API endpoint, but these are some of the high-level endpoints that you can use to kind of work through building some automations. You can go back to this list. Here's a list of all the different endpoints, and you can go in and think about all the different ways you could use